Good morning, I'm Andrea Fornasier. I'm project manager at Un'Industria Pordenone, the Manufacturers Association of the province of Pordenone. Pordenone is in the northeast of Italy, near Venice, 100 kilometers from Venice. And we realized in 3 years ago, we realized the Lean Experience Factory, and we decided together the University of Udine, in particular together Professor De Toni and the PhD student Giovanni De Zan, we decided to analyze if learning Lean through experience is something fabulous or is for something fad that only without some strong theoretical background. And for this reason, we realized this research, and today I present this study. And the agenda, after a brief introduction, I propose the literature analysis about learning models and lean management models. Then I'm going to propose the research framework. That research framework is an assessment tool that allows to evaluate the model factory. Then methodology, the case study about Lean Experience Factory, and finally we will achieve the conclusions. Okay, we already see with JMAC, Cat Factory, what is a model factory, but a model factory is a locus for learning, and in particular reproduce a real operative environment, a firm, a small firm enterprise, and both structurally and socially aspects. And if when we start the study, we observe there are several definitions about learning in literature, but two of them are very interesting because the first one is that learning is a change in the individual due to the interaction between the subject and the environment. And also the definition proposed by Schulk is very interesting because he said that learning has three properties. It involves change, it endures over time, and take place through experience. In this slide, two are the important words, the experience and also the interaction between individual and the environment. If it's possible to, in literature, also there is the cone of Dale. In 1969, Edgar Dale, that is an educator, he already discovered that in our research, if you read, you remember only 10%. If you watch, if you see, you remember the 50%. And you try to do something, you remember the 90%. Or this is the simulation or a model of a real experience. Okay. About learning models. Learning models, in literature there are several models. In general, a learning consists in a cyclic path of a logical step later. And we identify 9 models in literature, starting from Dewey to Levin, Corbs, and so on. And we try to realize a synthesis about these models. In this table, I propose a synthesis. In the columns are the 9 models. Here, there are all the phases of the single cycles that the authors proposed. In particular, it's interesting to observe that someone proposed only some steps, some others. There are several steps, but in particular, you can see that initially there is a concrete experience in several authors. Then there is a observation, consolidation, a reflection. Then there is a conceptualization or generalizing, and then there is another execution, active experimentation. Starting from this analysis, we propose 4 macro steps that are the concrete experience, the reflective observation, an abstract conceptualization to provide some conceptual elements, and finally an experimentation, an application of possible solutions. And about lean management model, I don't want to talk anything about lean management models because there is a wide literature, but we map the several models that are proposed in literature, and we identified 19 models when we analyzed them, and some are conceptual, supportive, or applied models. Okay, here you can find all the list starting from 1996 until 2011. There are the all models. The results framework. Okay, the framework is composed with 2 sub-frameworks. The first one is the 8-phase learning path that go to analyze the learning, the process about learning, and the second one is the lean management model that want to analyze the context. These 2 frameworks allow to identify and realize 2 operative tools. Okay, the 8-phase learning, the macro phases are one, the concrete experience, reflective observation, abstract conceptualization, and experimentation. The 8 phases. For the concrete experience, we have an introductive briefing and then an exit-state exploration. The participants in the model factory must observe, explore what are the several aspects about for socially but also technical aspects. Then there is a reflective observation. The participants gathered the data, the participants sharing the data gathered, and then there is also a re-elaboration of this data. The next step is the abstract conceptualization. The theoretical concepts are transferred to the participants, and also in this phase there is a to-be-state planning. Finally, the experimentation, where there is a to-be-state application and also consolidation. Consolidation means that the participants try to imagine how to apply these concepts in own organization. Okay, the lean management model, we developed this model that is composed by 2 macro building blocks. One is just-in-time, the other one is supporting function. In just-in-time, we have 3 building blocks: planning and control, process and equipment, and the supplier and customer relationship. And then in the supporting function, okay, is the product development, human resource management, quality management, and maintenance management. And then we have also the value analysis and mapping and the continuous improvement. In particular, for each building block, we realize, we identify which are the items that compose that building block. And for example, for planning and control, there is the pull system, but also the just-in-time, but also the Kanban. The first 2 are some principles, but for example, Kanban and so on are a technique in the last column. We divided, and we did these reserves for all the building blocks. This is just in time, and then supporting function, value, analysis, and also continuous improvement. This allows to realize two operative tools. The first one is that we call it learning process analysis matrix. In the columns, you can find the phases of the learning phases, and while in the row you can find the modules of a training course or learning techniques. The second one tool is the learning content covering scheme, where it's possible to give an idea immediately how many contents are covered with the training course that has been realized. Okay, methodology, we decided to realize in-depth case study analysis to test this framework. About the case study, we realized, as I said before, we realized the Learning Experience, we opened the Learning Experience Factory 3 years ago, about in June 2011, and the shareholder of this project has been Unione Industriale Pordenone, some others stakeholders, local stakeholders, but also another important partner, that is McKinsey & Company. He need a model factory in Italy, and we was in search of a partner to develop a model factory. And in the slide you can see that, okay, we opened the model factory in 2011, and then in 2012 we realized also the model office. That means how to apply lean techniques to the office, and for example we applied in several banks, assurance, and so on. And then last year we realized also the quality control lab. Lean Experience Factory is a part of a McKinsey capability building. McKinsey called the model factories capability building centers. We were the third model factory, the number 10 in chronological. The first one was realized in Darmstadt, Germany. The second one in Lyon, in France, and the third one was the Lean Experience Factory. Then they realized now have 16 model factories around the world. Main results after 3 years of activities. We realized 175 days of training courses, 75 editions, more than 1,000 of participants, and the customer coming from 80% from Italy, and someone also are foreign, coming from foreign countries. And moreover, in Lean Experience Factory, we realized also several conferences, open days, because we would like to diffuse the culture about Lean in our territory. And we would like to diffuse the efficiency concept in our territory, because Left for Us represent a flag to improve efficiency in our territory. Because in a previous study, we observed, in a previous research, we observed that the province of Pordenone have a gap of competitiveness. And for this reason, we try to realize this action to improve our competitiveness. In particular, in Lean Experience Factory is a place to share knowledge, exchange best practice, discuss, and so on. In fact, we have a strong relationship with the universities. Udine Trieste, this is a demonstration, but also with Lean consultants, companies of the territory, and also with multinational companies, because the link with McKinsey allows us to have always the best practice. Okay, about the model factory, the specific model factory, this is the product that we use to teach Lean. Is a hermetic compressor for household appliances, and this is the layout of the as-is-state configuration of the Lean experience. The difference, for example, for a cat factory of ZMAC, the participant for us is not the operator, but there are the operators. In this configuration are 4 operators, and the participants, the student, must observe. We want to teach to observe what is okay, what is not okay, what is possible to improve. And especially it's very important that our operators are actors, because there is also we make a lot of attention also for the social aspects. There are 3 areas: the machining area, the assembling area, and the testing area. This is the as-is state. This is the one of the future state possible, where the machining area doesn't change, but the other areas change. These are the training courses, a catalog that we realized from 1 day Lean Basics at the end of Lean Expert, that is 11 days. For these results, we try to analyze, to check our assessment tools for the Lean Week, that is a 5-day training course. Okay, we saw this table, this matrix before. This is the first operative tool, and you can find all the Lean techniques that we teach in the Lean Week. Okay, here there is which phases of the learning path are covered for each technique. For example, standard operating procedures, all the phases are covered, while, for example, statistical process control is covered only. There is only some theoretical aspects give. This is also because we have only 5 days, and we have to decide which contents we have to put inside. The second one is the learning context covering scheme, that in very simple way there is a percentage of how many contents are covered for the complete model. In this case, for Lean Week, for example, there are several contents about process and equipment, about value analysis and mapping, and also for human resource management. And for example, we don't about product development. We don't realize any concept about product development. Okay, this presentation, this study, allow to check the Lean experience learning process with the literature, and also this work has led the missing link between experiential learning and Lean, and also between experiential learning and model factories. And finally, okay, we have also an assessment tool that could be useful to check the learning process of the model factories. For example, another check could be do also in the car factory, but only to understand which are the difference and the similarities. Finally, the conclusions. Okay, this study allows to build a solid theoretical ground for the learning and the training process that occur in a model factory. And Dewey said that an ounce of experience is better than a ton of theory. For this reason, we coming back to the initial question: is the model factory a fab or a fed? We are sure that model factory and in general the experiential learning is a fabulous approach to teach lean. Thank you.
Thank you. Two questions. What was your budget to build that type of learning factory? Second, are you doing any research or is it just training?
But the first one is difficult to give you an answer immediately, and but we invest together the local stakeholders and also McKinsey. The second one, we want to realize training courses, but also reserves. And for this reason, there is also an evolution of the model factory, for example, because starting from the lean manufacturing, we realized then the model office, the lean model office, and then also the quality control lab. But moreover, we have also proposed these reserves, for example, and moreover, we, inside the lean experience in the organization, there are also some PhD students that collaborate. There is a strong collaboration with University of Udine, for example, that allow to improve and provide new knowledge, create new knowledge.
Thank you for your presentation. My question is, how did you measure the amount of coverage of each of these elements? So all these tools are to some extent covered by the in the course which is conducted in the factory. How did you measure that?
We have several training modules. We have more than 19 training modules, and from these 90 training modules, we composed the training courses, and we covered all phases except the product development.
So how did you know that some of these elements are 60% covered and some are
How?
covered? Yeah.
Okay, sorry. It's very simple. From the literature analysis, we identify all the items that are inside that building block, and then we check. There is X explained, this one. We divide it and stop, because it's rough, it's simple, but it's...
So it is the number of items out of the total that is present in that module.
Right.
Thank you for the presentation. And one simple question, roughly. You have the factory side, the office side, and now the quality lab. Today, what is the share of this in
the major part is the first one, is the production. The second one is office, and then the third one is, because it's very specific, but also all in office is allow us to have more customers, because it's not only production, but it's also banks, or also the province, and so on. Some public administrations are interested about lean, and they ask, could you tell me how to do something? It's very interesting.
Yeah, also thank you from my side. A question, you outlined some missing links between the learning and the experimental learning in the factory. Could you explain this in more detail, and what have you done to close these gaps?
Okay, it's very difficult in 30 minutes present all the details, but with several literature analysis and across the several literature analysis, we try to comb this gap.
Is there any other additional comments? No one? Okay, so I think we are ready for the next presentation, but before doing that, we want to thank you again.
Thank you very much.